Hi guys, we are waiting for a few more people. Okay, as soon as they join, we'll start because we are expecting like around 10 to 15 people. Irrespective, we'll start like around 2:10 for sure. And I know you guys are all busy and stuff. I'm sure Shruti has this really invigorating session for us. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions during the session, like let's keep it till the end. Or if you want, like if time doesn't permit, what you guys can do is later on you can send me the questions and I'll give it to her. And then maybe like whenever she gets time, she can answer them. So
Hi
yeah.
guys. Hi Shruti.
Hi. I don't know if you're going to be addressing me or Shruti Abraham. It's just a confusion we've had throughout our high school.
We had three Shrutis in the same class.
Yeah, we had three different Shrutis, and it was very confusing.
Wow, that must have been difficult.
No,
it was. It was quite embarrassing, actually, Shruti, wasn't it? Yeah. So it was like we three used to get into trouble for different reasons. So every time we heard Shruti, we were like, oh, okay, probably me.
Who did what now?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. It was actually quite a great thing that we're doing here. I think we were all looking forward to something like this happening.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually conducting this because for maybe more than you, it's probably going to help me. Because yeah, I mean, this whole lockdown thing has just been it's been taking a toll on a lot of us.
That's true, and as much as we convince ourselves and cope,
yeah,
in whatever way possible, it does get to us at times.
Yeah,
and
it
talking
does.
about it is important. Yeah,
it is very important because I mean we're not invincible. No one is beyond feeling things like this, these uncomfortable feelings. So it's very important to like make sure that we connect with people who are also feeling the same and kind of get help. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people would also have joined. I mean, I guess because of their busy schedules and, like when a workplace is giving you this space, it's sometimes like you kind of hesitate, like, because there's a lot of vulnerability involved and things like that. But I guess what we can do is sort of just how, this mental health, at least in the sphere of our working culture, like how we can make it a little more better. I'm sure we'll get some insight. So I think I think we'll just wait for 4 more minutes. I think.
I think people are joining in.
So I'll just we'll start at 2:10.
Perfect.
Also, I think in the whatever's happening since yesterday, people just crazily dying on us. It's just one of those really sad times.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite, I think everyone's been expecting just 2 weeks more, 1 week more, but it's just been extending. So,
Also, guys, okay, so Shruti, we have our HR Preeti Kaur. It's her birthday today.
Oh, wow. I think we should do something special for Preeti. Happy birthday, Preeti.
She here? I can see.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday, Preeti.
Happy birthday, Preeti.
Happy birthday. Thank you, guys.
We'll all sing for her at the end of the meeting. Shruti, please make sure that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just like 3 more minutes and we're starting sharp. So like, if you guys have anything to do, in 3 minutes, then do it. And we also have Nikita Burman. She is actually the co-founder of our company. So she's also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Nikita.
Okay. Sandy has also joined. I think one more person. I don't know who they are. Okay, since we have a majority of people who've joined us, okay, hi everyone, welcome to this session. Thank you for taking out the time. I know we are all like super busy with everything that's going on, and Thank you, Shruti, for actually conducting this session because, like we also connected after like maybe 8 years.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we did.
So that was also like surreal, and it was almost like no time has passed by. Like when we our school. So like um, let me just share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just put this on. So Shruti will be conducting a mental health session. So we named it Thriving. So, and what we are going to, so we had circulated a Google form, okay, and we received a lot of insight as to, what needed to be addressed. So things like having some sort of discipline, maintaining mental health during our work timings, and how to balance both work and home, and all of these integrities and different aspects. I guess someone also mentioned like maintaining some sort of discipline. Like right now we feel there's a sense of exhaustion that has come about through working from home. I don't know how many people feel the same way, but everyone has like we are all having such unique experiences. There are only certain emotions or experiences that are common. So what we are trying to do is let's try to get a better insight. So I will just introduce our uh, guest for today. That's Shruti Thomas. She spent about, I think, 6 years in Manipal.
7 years. I think this year marks my 7th year.
7 years in Manipal.
Yes.
So she knows that Manipal 5 kilometer radius at the back of her hand. So she studied occupational therapy at Manipal University in her undergrad, and then she, for her postgrad, she did again occupational therapy, and she majored in mental health. I think, Shruti, can you talk about like what exactly your course entitles and stuff like that? Just like in a
Yeah. Sure, no problem. So basically, occupational therapy, I'm not sure of how many of you are aware of what it is, but occupational therapy is basically getting people who have been affected by any kind of an illness or a disability back into their daily life, or being able to live their lives independently again post injury or post any kind of illness, be it physical or mental illness. So being able to make them or helping them participate in their lives again, despite any kind of limitations that they may have. Occupations can be anything, anything that you do from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep at night. So anything and everything that you do during the day is an occupation. So, people who are affected, whose occupations are affected because of their different conditions, we kind of help them or rehabilitate them back into their lives.
Okay, so you've like something that's really cool. What you do is super cool now. We also do okay, but still. Yeah, so it was us back in 11th grade, 12th grade.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know you were going to use these pictures for today. I thought you just dug them up randomly.
I dug them up for this particular presentation, presentation. So, I think I've known her for like 2 years since we were in school. We were both in the same class. And like I've already thanked you in the beginning of the session, but I think I'm thanking you again. So I think we'll just go straight to the session.
Yes, we will. So should we start now, or are we waiting for more people?
We can start.
We'll start. Okay. Sharing my screen.
Okay.
With all of you. Just give me a second.
So guys, we'll go through the session, and if you have any questions, we will keep it for the end of the session. And at the end of the session, we are also going to sing Preeti happy birthday if she's still on call. So,
yes, we're definitely doing that.
Okay.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Please excuse some of the delays because I have a really old laptop, but yes, yeah. All right. Am I on PowerPoint now for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Shruti, for that introduction. So I was thinking I'll start off, by introducing myself as Shruti's friend Shruti, but since she's already done all of that, yeah. So I'm an occupational therapist currently doing my master's in mental health, and I wanted to name this session this particular name because a lot of us, I feel like we're just trying to get by these days, just trying to just waiting for that finish line. When is all of this going to stop? When are we going to get back to our usual lives? This probably started off for a lot of us, like, our biggest dream come true, just staying at home in our PJs, doing work and just being at home. What better, what's better than that? But slowly as the days progress, maybe after the first or second week, we kind of started to, feel that itchy feeling, and just got worse from there probably for a lot of us. So I just want to talk about how we can make the best use, or the most efficient use of this time that we have now, because we might not ever get this time back. Because, I mean, let's face it, we've never experienced something like this in our lives ever since we've been born. We've always been doing something or the other, going out, meeting people. So this time might not come back. We pray and hope that it does not come back, but let's just try and figure out how to thrive during this time, and not just think about how to get by each day. Yeah, so I hope this will be helpful for you guys. So without much saying much further, I want to just move on to what mental health really is, because a lot of us think of mental health in black and white, in polarities. We think that someone with depression or someone with schizophrenia, okay, that person has a mental illness, or if you don't have that, you're fine, you're mentally fine. But that's not always that black and white. We are always so you see that line, you can see this line that I've drawn out. So it's a continuum, and it's a line that kind of moves between two ends of the continuum, and the two ends of the continuum are mental illness and mental health. Mental illness, again, is for people who have had a diagnosis, who have been diagnosed with some kind of issue, by the physician, by the psychiatrist. And on the other end, we have mental health. That means, you're thriving, you're doing extremely well in your mental health, you're emotionally happy, you've got everything going well for you. But these are two opposite ends of the continuum. We're never on either end always. We're always moving from one end to the other. We're not always stuck at any stagnant point. If you give any, you take your mental state at any time or any point of your life, you're at some different level on this continuum. So if you can see that rectangle that I've kind of drawn out for people that, for all of us, for people like us, all the normals, we are always kind of, jumping or running between the ends of, or the perimeter of that rectangle. We're never in one end completely. We're not always polarized to one end. It's always at different ends of the continuum that we're at. And a lot of us must be, feeling that we are constantly, so why are we constantly running up and down this ladder during this lockdown? Why do we feel like we're so, one minute we're like happy, and one minute we're all satisfied with our lives and we're so happy that we're staying at home, and the next minute we're just like, what is happening? It's randomly start to cry, or randomly some kind of overwhelming feeling has taken over you. What is happening? Why are your emotions on such overdrive all the time, especially during a lockdown like this? So why is a very important question to ask, because I want to explain what could be happening to our minds and our bodies right now, and why these feelings or why these problems are emerging for us all of the time now. Because I believe that when we know why, when we have the question, when we have the answers to the question why, we are more efficiently able to navigate or efficiently able to manage our problems. So when we have the answers as to why this is happening, we have more control over what's happening, so we can better understand and work through it. So let me just kind of explain what's probably happening in all our lives now. So life as we knew it, okay, for, I don't know, 24, 25, 26, how many ever years now, it's been disrupted. No doubt it's been disrupted. Things are not the same way. These are times like we've never known before. We've never been in such kind of a situation before. So there has definitely been a disruption to normal life as we've known it. So I'm going to take a kind of an occupational perspective when I talk about this. So if you can see that pyramid that I've drawn out for you guys, like I said before, occupation is anything you do right from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go back to sleep. And even rest and sleep is considered as a major occupation in our lives. It actually consists of 1/3 of our daily occupations, or of our time. 1/3 of our time goes into that. So with occupation and looking at it from an occupational perspective, we have a role that we all play in society, right? Now I've taken two examples of a worker and a friend, and by no means is it limited just to worker and a friend. There's so many roles that all of us play at different points of time, but I just wanted to, take an example and kind of simplify it for you guys. So a role is our social identity, what we do as a person. We're all probably sons and daughters, friends, workers, hobbyists, so many roles that we take on in our lives, right? So with a role comes a routine, right? A routine is a time bound thing. It becomes time bound when there is a structure to it. Your role has a structure, and in that structure, everything that you do, or your occupations are organized in that structure. So it's a role, that's your social identity, the identity that you have in society, which is associated with a routine, a routine of the things you do and the things you do in itself, or the occupations, if you can understand that hierarchy of things. So let me take the example of a worker. Maybe a worker is the role that you have, is your role in the community of an employee. Yeah. So now that worker role is probably disrupted, or maybe you're not being able to engage in your role of a worker as efficiently as you used to, or as you would want to, maybe because your routine that you used to follow all this while has been disrupted. So before this lockdown, you probably would wake up in the morning, get ready for work, travel to work, which in itself is it's such a huge task. Especially, I don't know how far away you guys, all of you, live away from work, but knowing Delhi traffic, it could be quite a tedious task to just get to work. So that was a huge part of your life. Then actual 9 to 5 work, and interacting with people around, lunch breaks, coffee breaks, whatever. All of this is a part of the routine that you are so used to, that you've kind of built around your life, or you've built for your life. All of that has been disrupted. And because the routine has been disrupted, even your occupations, or the things or the activities that you're doing in a day are suffering. Probably you've got more meetings now, or you're not as prepared, or when you get up in the morning, you have an early morning meeting, your routine the previous day was off, you've slept very late in the night, and that is having an effect on your meeting the next morning. That all of these are very interlinked. And maybe your deadlines have increased now, your deadlines have become shorter now, or maybe they've become longer, don't know that, but still it's a disruption. It's different from what you used to do before. So your brain is kind of taking time to process all of this, and it's not being able to process it in the time that we've given, because for so many years we've been following a certain set pattern of doing things, but now suddenly everything's come to a standstill. Everything's just so different, and your brain's taking time to process all of that. So it's a given that with that comes a lot of these negative feelings that you feel as well, right? So it's very important to understand these aspects of our life, because a disruption in this is very, very very likely to cause a lot of the negative emotions that we're probably feeling right now, right? So with that background, with that explanation of what you're probably feeling or what is happening in your lives, let's move on to some of the common issues we're all probably facing right now, including me. A lot of feelings of feeling overworked and exhausted, right? Overworked and exhausted, as in, your brain is probably perceiving it as you're just sitting at home all day, you're in your pajamas, you're not moving out. What work are you really doing? That's how we are kind of programmed to think. If you were to go out, if you were to do stuff, you were to travel outside, meet people, and even on that day, if you didn't get as much as work done in that day, you'd still at the end of the day feel like, oh, I've gotten so much work done, because just you've moved around so much. But sitting at home all day, even if you're doing so much work, your brain is automatically taking it in as, no, I'm not doing any work. So you're pushing yourself to do more and more and more, because you want to feel productive. You're just pushing yourself to do as much as you can. And doing that much over a period of time without stopping is definitely going to leave you feeling overworked, exhausted, burnt out. And it's no surprise that you start feeling like that. So that is one probably issue that a lot of us are feeling right now. Frustration as a result of being confined into our homes, confined in those four walls, confined with people that we're seeing every day. It's not something that we've experienced, or maybe on the weekends, yeah, we're confined at home. But frustrations that come along with being restricted, not of your own will, just being restricted in that space is very frustrating. For an introvert like me, I am finding it so difficult to just stay at home and not go out and meet people. Can't imagine what it must be like for people who who like to go out to meet people. It's such a big part of their lives. It's such a big it defines them. Frustrations, feelings of frustrations that result from it is very, very common, very natural. Boredom and monotony could be another thing. Now, I'm not saying that you guys have a lot of time in your hands for you to feel bored. You guys don't have time. I know, you're doing a lot of work during the day. There's no time to feel bored, but boredom is not, it doesn't arise out of not having anything to do. It's just the same thing that you're doing every day. You're just in front of your laptops, probably answering calls. Just every day, there's no change of scene, no change of environment. You're just doing the same thing again and again. It's getting boring. It's getting monotonous. Fear of own health and health of your near and dear ones. That is such a huge thing, especially during a pandemic. A lot of us live far away from our close ones, and just even the thought of just being scared for your own health, even just when you go out to get groceries or even for the basic necessities, you're so scared. You're coming back, you're washing your hands, everyone's paranoid, right? And the news, the stream of news, the fake news, the WhatsApp forwards, they don't help at all. So all of that just increases anxiety related to health, and that is something very, very present during these times. And fear of life after lockdown is something that I've been hearing from a lot of people recently. Fear of life after lockdown, in terms of your job, like, will that job still be there after I get out of this lockdown? What about pay cuts? There'll be so many pay cuts, and how am I going to manage my finances? How am I going to pay for all these things? Just all those apprehensions about regarding your job and how your future career wise is going to look like, especially for someone like me. Now I'm graduating in 2 months. Am I going to get a job or not? Those kind of thoughts just come into your mind. And that's very normal for all of us to have these kind of thoughts. And trust me, more people than you think are thinking these things. Economy, the bigger questions of how is our economy going to suffer from this, or how are we going to bounce back from this? How are we going to do as a nation? How is this going to affect our daily lives? Economic problems and all of that that's happening around. Travel after lockdown is also a concern, because a lot of us stay away from our families. A lot of our family members stay abroad, and when are we going to meet them? How long will it take till we finally have to go meet them? My parents stay in Dubai, and I don't know where I'm going to see them next. I don't know how many months it's going to take. I'm supposed to be going home in the next 2 months. Is it going to happen? Again, a lot of anxieties and fears regarding that. So the next, something else that we're probably feeling right now are feelings of hopelessness, loneliness, and depression, especially for people staying alone. I was told that not many of you stay alone at this point of time. That's great. But for people who are staying alone, if any one of you are feeling those, feelings of loneliness and just hopelessness, you sometimes feel that, you're just curled up in bed thinking about life and pondering about life, and you just start crying, and you just start feeling that heavy weight. And when I talk about depression, I'm not necessarily talking about clinical depression. It's just something that we all face as well, just feeling low for no reason, just feeling sad, those things. Anxiety is something else that we're probably facing. I think someone had asked me to address this one concept of feeling insecure about your job, having anxiety regarding your work, regarding your jobs, feeling insecure. So let me explain this basic psychological fact. Let me just give you an analogy of, probably this might make sense to you. But when we were all back in school and college and stuff, when we were asked to, when we were on our study leaves before a board exam or any big exam, you wouldn't get to meet your friends as often or talk to them as often. So you're just kind of sitting by yourself studying, and you sometimes randomly wonder, I wonder if they're doing more than I am. I wonder if they've studied more than I have. And that kind of just puts you in anxiety automatically, like, oh my gosh, I'm running behind, I'm lagging behind, I haven't done anything, I haven't finished anything. I bet everyone's finished like 2-3 revisions, but in reality, no one else has done as much, or maybe they're doing even less, or we don't know about that. But it's just that automatic psychological reaction that we have to not being able to see what others are doing. At least if we are with others, we know we have the reassurance that we're all on the same boat. But when we're alone, we're like, okay, that person's doing much more than I am. And you're that also added the added effect of staying at home and just feeling that you're not being productive. You're just thinking, oh, everyone else is just doing as much more than I am. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm not doing my work well enough, and all of that anxiety, overwhelming feeling, and the insecurities kick in. That is, I'm sure, most of us feeling it, even if you're not really admitting it to anyone or ourselves. Uh, Being isolated from family and friends, such an important part of our lives, now suddenly come to a halt. I wouldn't say stop, but a halt. Festivals, not being able to be a part of festivals and celebrate it the way we used to anymore. It's all going to take a toll on our mental health. Uh, Also, another very important point, this is something that I really would want to stress on: being or knowing someone who is isolated with an abusive family member. It is extremely important that we watch out for these instances. If you are one, or if you know someone who is in this situation, please make sure that you get the necessary help for them. I think there are a lot of helplines and toll lines that we can call and report these things too, because a lot of these people who are abusive towards their family members are people who are under the influence of some kind of substance abuse or some kind of substance. So during the lockdown, it just gives them more reason to either drink more or to consume the substance even more, or the lack of availability of these substances just makes them even more frustrated, and they're also confined into one space. They don't know what to do, and they resort to kind of abusing their family members. So if you do know of someone who's going through this, please make sure you report these things. The last one is living with a person who is physically or mentally unwell. That's bound to have a lot of effect on your mental health, a lot of negative effect on your own mental health, especially if you're a caregiver for that person. This I will be kind of addressing in the end, where I talk about different things that you can do, or different ways that you can tackle this. These are just suggestions, possibilities. It's to each person, it's going to be different according to your situation, but something I will address in the when I'm addressing all the questions. So now, before I get into sharing some tips with you of how to, like, maybe you can manage all of these things, I want to state a few ground rules, or just a few things that you have to bear in mind before we get into the suggestions or what we can do to counter all of this. Now, we're all trying to find our new normal, like, because this is never normal for us. This is something that we've never seen before. So we're all trying to, we're all stumbling around in the dark, trying to find what's normal for us again. We don't know how long this lockdown is going to be extended. So we don't know how long we're going to have to put up with this. But so in that time, we need to have a certain normal. We need to feel that, okay, this is normal for us. So before we find the new normal, we need to understand that everyone, all of us, including me, who is a mental health professional, who is supposed to know about a lot of these things, even me, I am feeling the same way a lot of you guys are feeling. I also find myself probably just wondering what is happening, why am I feeling so sad and so low all the time. Everyone's feeling like, so if you are kind of suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling of sadness, or you've never experienced something like this before, sudden anxiety, you're like, what is happening? I've never experienced this before. It's okay. It's normal. It's natural. Everyone's probably feeling this right now. Don't panic. Don't be like, okay, this is probably the beginning of some kind of illness. It most probably isn't, because these are times that we're kind of everyone is bound to feel like this. But if you have been feeling like this for years, or for months now, for weeks, and you're just not, it's just very persistent, and you're not being able to get out of it, no matter what you do, it's probably best if you do consult or approach a healthcare professional to kind of get their help. I would suggest that, strongly suggest that. Second is, nobody has this more figured out than you do. Everybody is just trying to find out what's happening, trying to get information for themselves, trying to figure this whole thing out. So it's very, very important that you be patient with yourself, give yourself time. Now, if someone else was suffering, someone close to you was suffering, wouldn't you want to be there for them and be as patient as you can with them? So then why wouldn't you be patient with yourself? Why wouldn't you give yourself that time to figure this thing out? And the third thing is you need to be you need to find your new normal and not try to compete with anybody else. When you're trying to compete with someone else, it just gets it even more. You just adding on more anxiety into your own life. You don't have to compete with anyone else. You just be yourself, be find your own new normal, and live with that, and that's okay. And slowly with time it'll evolve. Yeah. So coming to a few tips that I would like to share with you guys. I don't know if they'll help, but you can definitely try these things out now. As anxiety, as a lot of you have pointed out, is one major distress for a lot of us. Few things that I would suggest is you distract yourself from that trigger, whatever is a trigger for that anxiety. If you can't deal with it at that moment, at that point, I would suggest that you distract yourself from it. Go and do something that for a while, that kind of distracts you from it. You don't have to think about it, and then once you're calmer, once you've calmed down a little more, come back to whatever it is. When you feel more equipped to deal with it better, come back and resume it. If you can't, if it's getting too much for you, distract yourself with anything that you like to do. There are various stress management techniques that a lot of people talk about. Deep breathing is one. Deep breathing is a great way to kind of calm yourself down, calm your neurophysiological reactions, like your racing heart, you're sweaty. By deep breathing, abdominal breathing they call it, it really helps to calm your body down. Also, stay away from fake news. I know there's no paucity of fake news going on around these days. So please, I urge you to stay away from these news that causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of us. And it's proven, a lot of extensive research done on how physical exercise helps you a great deal in reducing feelings of anxiety and overwhelming feelings. And also making sure that you have a balanced diet, and taking care of yourself in general, taking care of your body in general is so important. Second thing is to tackle your emotions. So like I said, a lot of emotions coming our way, a lot of emotions just taking up our brains and our minds. So when you feel like you're overwhelmed by all of these emotions, it's very important for you to just stop and be mindful. So this mindfulness technique is the bread and butter of a lot of mental health professionals. So I am definitely going to advise you to follow this. It's very 3 simple steps, right? So when you know that a thought has entered, an uncomfortable thought has entered your mind, and you're feeling uneasy, when you're feeling uncomfortable, you observe that you are feeling something. You observe that you're feeling uncomfortable. You just know, you've just recognized that there is something that is coming to you that's making you feel uncomfortable. So that is the first step. You observe, you acknowledge, okay, that there is something. You just acknowledge and let it be. Don't judge yourself, or don't judge that thought, and don't attach yourself to that thought. Just let it be. Like a lot of us, if you're if you use Teflon pans or non-stick pans, when you make a pancake and you try to flip it over, it just comes off without sticking to it. It just, anything that you put on a Teflon or a non-stick pan just falls away from it. So a thought that comes into your mind, let it just slip away. I mean, slip away as in, don't just ignore it, but let it not stick to you. Don't ascribe meaning to it. Let it just be a thought. A thought has come, let it just be a thought. And then try to describe that thought, or try to describe that feeling. Okay, I'm feeling this tightness in my chest, or I'm feeling woozy in my stomach, or my head is paining. Try to describe it in terms of feelings. And again, don't attach meaning to it. Don't attach yourself to it. Just, it's a thought, it's a feeling, let it be a feeling. Don't judge it. Don't personalize it. And then that there's a thought that has come, you're feeling a certain way about it. Now try to focus on what's happening in the now, here and now. Those thoughts, those feelings are probably related to something that's maybe going to happen in the future, or something that's probably happened in the past. It's very rarely or associated with what's happening right now. So if it's not something that you have control over, try to focus or participate in the here and now. And how to be mindful or to participate in the here and now is by being very conscious of what you're feeling through your 5 senses. Now you're feeling, so if you're in a certain situation and you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling some kind of uncomfortable emotion, try to focus on what you're feeling through your 5 different senses. What can you smell? What can you hear? Try focusing on that. What can you touch? Feel around. What can you touch? How does your body feel like? Do you feel, are you sitting on a solid surface? Are you sitting on a comfortable cushy? Try to explain to yourself how you're feeling, or be very conscious of what is happening in the here and now. this is called the mindfulness technique, how to be mindful. This takes a lot of time to practice and kind of master, but if you can put a start with this, it'll probably really help you guys out with anxiety that you kind of begin to feel here and now. And the biggest thing is knowing that your emotions don't control you. You control your emotions. Your mind, we have the power to direct our emotions, to direct our thoughts. So this is really helpful in kind of controlling your own emotions. Third thing is how to build. You need to build a new routine with whatever time you have, whatever you can do now. I can't emphasize on how important it is to have a balanced routine. That kind of correlates with the next point as well. So you need to have a balanced routine of work and of regular life. Now, working 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day is a routine, but it's not a balanced one. And the longer you go on with that, the more burnt out you're going to feel, the more exhausted, the more all these emotions are just going to keep piling on onto you again and again. You need to draw the line somewhere. Where are we going to draw the line? We need to, now it's just, I think on the forms that you guys have filled out, a lot of you are working 8 hours, 9 hours, but some of you are even working more than 9 hours. And I was talking to Shruti, and she was saying, sometimes you just have to be available to your clients when they call you. You just have to do that. You just have to be available to your boss when they call you. And these things I understand are important, but there comes a point where we have to draw the line, because for your own health's sake, not only physical health, but your mental health, which is such, if you're not well mentally, then you're probably not going to end up being as efficient as you want to be anyway. So you might as well give yourself that time to breathe and be double productive in your work. So it's very important to really have a work life balance, and try to build a routine for your weekdays and for your weekends. For your weekdays, and again, for your weekdays, try not to make every day look the same, because already we're confined in a space without much changing. So try to make every day different. You're probably working 8 hours a day. If you're working 8 hours a day, take a break in between. Make sure you're taking an hour or half an hour off in between. After you're done with work, reward yourself with some me time. Someone had asked me to address the importance of me time, and I can't explain how important it is to have that time for yourself. In the meantime, you can do anything that you want, leisure activities, or just sitting outside in the balcony with a hot cup of coffee, or hot cup of tea. That is enough to kind of uh, you know undo a lot of the negative effects that the everything else has had on your mental health. Just that 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just sitting and enjoying a cup of tea, just looking outside, that's enough. And you might not, we might not realize the importance of all these things, but when you start doing them, you see the additive effects of all of this on your mental health. You see how you try your perspective, and your perspective on this whole thing, your mental health. You just start to feel much more healthier. You just start to feel that something is changing. I'm sure that change you will be able to notice when you start doing all of these things. Try to incorporate leisure time. Try to incorporate time with friends. So have a day that has equal amounts of all of these things. If you're working 8 hours a day, make sure that after that 8th hour, you, as much as possible, you're trying to restrict everything that's connected to work. You're probably, I mean, like I said, referring back to what I said, you're probably feeling that I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting at home. That's just natural for your brain to feel like that. But when you do feel like that, tell yourself, no, I am doing the work that I have to do, and after that, it's time for me. I mean, just because I'm staying at home doesn't mean that I have to compensate for it by doing extra work. That's not how your bodies are going to. Your body is not going to react or respond very well if you're going to keep doing that to your body. So make sure that you strike that work-life balance, and making time for yourself, like I said, exploring new leisure. If there's something that you've always wanted to try out, that doesn't pertain to going out, and not adventurous sports and all that I'm talking about, but like something that you've always wanted to take up, maybe knitting, maybe cooking. Cooking is something that I started recently, and I like the cooking part, but the cleaning up is not my cup of tea, so I try not to do that. But if there's anything else that you've always wanted to, but haven't really gotten around to it, or it's some things that you've left off in the past and you've never really had time for, bring those things back. Dust off that dusty guitar, record something, or take out that the drawing board of yours, paint something, just anything for a little while. Even that's good enough. You start seeing the changes. build on your work skills. So I've been told that you guys you're in a part of a startup program, right? So now would probably be a great time to kind of work on your ideas, how to expand business. There's a lot of it's common that a lot of people, a lot of businesses will be kind of suffering during this time. So you know, trying to figure out how you can, you know, advertise yourself, market yourselves, and put yourselves in a better position when you know, so when you come out of the lockdown, that you're in a better off position. Try and brainstorm those kind of ideas, building on your skills, your professional skills. So many courses available nowadays, online, free courses as well. If you can, you know, take part in one of those, just maybe an hour on the weekend or something, that'll be, you know, something, a new skill that you can add on to your LinkedIn CVs. So combating loneliness is the next thing, which is very real for me. I'm not sure how much you guys are all suffering with that, but you know, just spending time with your family and friends during this time is so important. And maybe a lot of you are spending too much time and you're getting frustrated with that. But you know, just taking that time to call someone up, you know, who's far away from you, just speak to them, even if you're spending time with them virtually or physically, it doesn't matter. Just making sure that you're in touch with a lot of other people, just connecting with other people. That not like, you know, Shruti said, we've reconnected after 8 years. It was so nice to reconnect. Like, you know, we, in our busy schedules, we've hardly thought, you know, of each other, but you know, just taking that time to really talk to each other and spend time playing online video games with each other. Great idea. It really helps with, you know, kind of feeling better and spending time with each other. Spending time in meditation and other spiritual activities is something that's really helped me. Whenever I'm feeling low, whenever I'm feeling this overwhelming feeling, you know, turning to prayer, reading the Bible, reading scriptures, it really helps me. It kind of calms me down. It just gives me a broader perspective. It puts everything into perspective for me. So that is something that I would encourage you all to do if you are into that. Don't push yourself too much. So by when, you know, when we start feeling anxious, when we start feeling like we're not doing enough, it's common for us to just start pushing ourselves. Now you're going to start pushing yourselves. You're just going to keep you know, dwindling down that ladder. But also it's very important that you don't go too easy on yourselves. Okay, maybe one day you had a day where you didn't want to do anything, you didn't feel like doing anything, you just didn't do anything. But that's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. You can do whatever you wanted to do, that you didn't do yesterday, you can do that tomorrow. Just don't be too easy on yourself. Don't let too many days go by where you haven't done anything. Just watch out for that rut that you kind of get into. One day you start feeling low, and then you end up having lots of days that, you know, you haven't done anything nice or anything productive. So watch out. Just make sure that you don't get into that kind of a rut. And reaching out to other people in distress, you know, those kind of altruistic behaviors, those are really, they not only help out other people, but even you start feeling good about yourself. You know, you've done something, you've spoken to someone who's in distress, or you've just reached out a helping hand, volunteering for these various causes. All of those things, I'm sure will really help you. It's really helped me. So yeah. So now these are just a few tips that I could share with you, given like the time constraints and all of that. So I'm sure that, you know, everyone's going through their own personal problems, and everyone has their own personalized issues. If anyone would like to know more or talk more about it, please feel free to contact me regarding these things. So now next session, I'm going to be addressing a few questions I think you guys had asked on the forms. So the first thing was how to deal with people who are suffering from mental illnesses. So if you know, or if you're living with someone who is suffering from a mental illness, it is absolutely necessary that you have a plan on how to get help for them, how to avail help for them. Because it's a time, you know, you don't not a lot of psychiatrists around, or not a lot of hospitals are you know, consultation is open. So make sure that you have a plan ready if their symptoms increase, or you're stocked up with medications that they need. And if their symptoms increase, who are you going to contact, when are you going to contact them, do you have their contact numbers? All of these things, make sure you have a plan, a backup plan ready if you are living with someone with you know, a known mental illness. But if you do see that someone is suffering for the first time from these symptoms, and you know, just very long persistent symptoms, they're just not going away, it would be a great idea, if possible, to kind of see if they can avail help. I think a lot of online counseling services are available. I'm not sure of the authenticity of a lot of them, so I don't know how reliable they could be, but if you can get in contact, get in touch with some kind of a psychiatrist or a physician, that would be great. Also, if the if a lot of times it's just by being them for them, just listening to them, just hearing them out will probably help them a lot. But if they are if they're suffering from symptoms that you can't manage, it's best to approach someone professional to probably do an evaluation and all, and help or deal with them more personally. How to manage anxiety, emotions, I think I've addressed that. How to do different things and how to keep yourself, or how to control your emotions, different activities, engaging in different activities can help you with these kind of emotions and anxiety. Symptoms of bad health, bad mental health are not, now, like I said, like I explained in that continuum, you're not really, we are not on either kind of in between. So what could be bad mental health for me may not be bad mental health for you. So it's very subjective, unless you have certain indicators that kind of point to you having or fitting into a criteria of having some mental illness. But other than that, bad mental health, it could be anything. It could be you feeling lower than usual, you're just constantly feeling in that rut, you're always feeling that that pit in your stomach. That's probably a uh, sign that you're not thriving. It's not the best of you mental health wise, but that is it's common to a lot of us, like I said before. So don't worry about it too much. But if you, like I mentioned before, if you feel like this is persisting and it's getting too much for you, and it's just not helping anyone, you feel like you need to reach out and get help, please do so. By all means, talk to someone, get help. That will really really help you during this time. How to control work under pressure and anxiety, insecurity, again, things that I talked about. Having that line drawn, or having that distinguishing between work and life, and just giving yourself enough time for both is very very important. Because if you let work take over your life, for whatever reason, that's just going to keep adding to your pressure and anxiety. So you need to learn how to kind of draw that line first, be assertive enough to draw that line, and then also fill the rest of your time not just mindlessly watching TV or doing something passive, but actually doing things that add more meaning and just uh, fun to your life. How to stop negative thoughts. We can't really stop these negative thoughts, because thoughts are a part and parcel of our brains. Negative or positive, we are always thinking, constantly thinking. So we can't really stop the negative thoughts from coming in, but we can choose to let these negative thoughts take control of us, or we can choose to take control of those negative thoughts, like I explained before. Being mindful, doing things to combat these negative thoughts. You can't really stop them, but you can make sure that you have them under control, and that you uh, push through them, and that you don't let them take control of your life. So these are some of the questions that you guys had asked me, so I thought I'd address them. But now I'm going to unmute all of you. So if there are any questions, if there is any comment, any thought that you guys would like to just talk about, please feel free to do so. Yeah.
Shruti, just I liked, how you walked us through this entire procedure of because I can easily call up my phone and be like, I'm feeling depressed today, and never look at it in the perspective of, oh, it's actually a reaction that's happening in my body, and the whole being mindful. I mean, this was so insightful for me to do it, and I'm sure like we all have questions. So, guys, because of the time constraint, and we have to conclude the meeting around 3:10, so we have about like 8, 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. So, if you guys have like, let's take 3 or 4 questions, and the rest you guys can. We have the group, right? You can just put in your questions or personal message me. I'll send it across to Shruti, and we'll address them. Okay, so
Also, I have a few reading materials that I can send over to you, so you can send
okay,
over to them.
definitely, of course.
And I will also share my email ID. If you have any questions you want to address directly to me, please feel free to do so. I mean, because this was not very extensive, I couldn't add everything. And like I said, a lot of you will have your own issues. So if you have anything that you want to talk about, please feel free to email me.
Okay, guys, any questions?
think more than questions, I think it's really good to kind of go through everything that we've been dealing with. You know, when you always think of these things in your head, but when somebody is there to actually address them and walk you through that entire process that you've been going through every day, I think I was just kind of absorbing everything and relating it to my everyday routine of like a range of emotions that I go through since I live alone and having to balance work. And especially now, since I think an added thing is that people who are living alone are having to do all of their chores also, since
Yes.
our the domestic helps are also not there. So now I think this is a new thing that has been added on to an existing kind of range of emotions. So for me it was so for me it was a good way to just absorb everything that you were saying and like processing all of it.
Titi, right? Is that how your name is pronounced? Titi?
Tithi,
Okay.
yes.
Titi, actually, so I'm also kind of living alone right now. So what you say, I can completely relate with that, because it's not only about, the chores, it's just getting so much. And you suddenly like, oh, what is this domestic life that I'm living? But apart from that, also, I think that loneliness that I was talking about, that really gets to some of us sometimes, right? For me at least, I just randomly sit and like, oh, why don't I have anyone around? Why can't I talk to anyone? I'm not even someone who likes to talk that much, but so these are very
I mean,
real
as much
issues.
as we are all on our TV shows and our Netflix binge, it actually feels, I actually look forward to whenever I'm like on work meetings, I sometimes ask people to turn their cameras on so that I can see some people. So I think that really helps.
That's
Sometimes,
very true. I even call up my 10-year-old brother just to hear him yap sometimes, because I'm so feeling
yeah.
Thank you, Titi, for sharing that. Yeah, that was nice. Anyone else? Any questions? Any comments? Anything that struck out to you, or anything you want to talk about?
Honestly, I had a lot of questions, but then after the session, I feel a lot of things have already been addressed, and I've got some kind of validation, which was very much required. That
Yes.
whatever you were pointing out, these are the kind of yes, yes, you said it that way. I've got some kind of validation, so I think my questions have been addressed.
That's great. Yeah, it is. It's very important for all of us to feel validated, because, like I said, we're so isolated in our own homes. You don't really know what the other person's going through. So just to know that we're all on the same boat, it's nice.
Yes.
Guys, any questions?
No questions as such, but really, thank you so much for having this
Thanks a lot.
conversation with
Yeah.
us.
No problem. It's my
Yes.
pleasure,
Thanks a lot.
actually.
I really appreciate some of the techniques that you mentioned. I personally had and have started a lot of them, like you mentioned, anxiety related exercises, like physical exercise, breathing exercises, meditation, and so on and so forth. It's sometimes just one thing is that sometimes you're in this sort of a negative space wherein you know what you should be doing, but even that becomes like a task,
Yeah.
to actually set your mind to it and be like, okay, I am feeling like this, I got it, and now to overcome this I need to breathe deeply, or I need to just sit and do this. But just doing that also is like, I'm like, it's a forced behavior. So is there any sort of a suggestion or advice that you can give as to, like what you mentioned about being patient with yourself? I think that really is something that clicked with me, that okay, it's okay, sometimes things take time, but
So
anything
that is something that, like you said, being patient with yourself. So I myself, I've been dealing with feelings of just one day randomly I'll wake up in the morning and I'm just like, I don't want to leave bed today. I'm just going to stay in bed. I don't want to do anything today. And then suddenly, before I know it, 2-3 days have passed where I've not done anything. And it's not it's not helping me anymore. I'm just getting into that rut. So if you feel that you've woken up that day like that, feeling like that in that negative space, it's very important to give yourself that one day just to just let everything go. Just take care of yourself, just be there, do whatever you want, do whatever you feel like. You want to order, you want to eat junk, order something outside, great, go ahead, do it. Just give yourself that space to spoil yourself. I think do whatever you want. binge on some TV show, do it, great. But don't let it be a pattern, because when you let it be a pattern, you'll reach a point where you look back and like, okay, I just did so much, and you start feeling even worse, and these anxiety and all these emotions just keep coming to you again. So it's very important to set yourself goals, small achievable goals, and that's something that I want to address and talk about when we're working from home as well. It's very easy to get absorbed in just everything that you're doing, all the work that you're doing, but it's very important to set small short-term achievable goals that are realistic for you for that day, and short-term that can be completed by the end of the day in the given time that you've set for yourself, and not going beyond that, trying your best not to go beyond that. So if you're feeling that sense of negativity, you're just in that space that day, give yourself an ultimatum. Okay, today I have this day to myself to do whatever I want, feel however I want, no problem, I can feel it. I'll just let myself be and let myself be in that space, and do whatever I like to do, whatever makes me happy. But tomorrow onwards, I'm going to try. Don't talk to yourself in absolutes. Don't be like, I have to do this. I will do this. If I don't do this, a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the emotion that we feel are because of the way we talk to ourselves. We give ourselves ultimatums. We kind of become our own parents. How our parents used to talk to us, maybe sometime in our childhood, you have to do this, you have to be like this. So when we talk to ourselves like that, that just increases our anxiety. We give ourselves so many have tos and musts. So just be a little more, try to change the way you talk to yourself. And I think that makes a lot of difference. So tell yourself, okay, today I'm giving myself a break. I'm just going to let myself do whatever I want. Tomorrow, I'm going to try and do a little more than I did today. And I'm just going to keep building myself up like that. Because we build ourselves up to a point and then suddenly we fall. And to get back to what we were doing kind of seems like an insurmountable mountain. But step by step, get back slowly on the horse. No pressure to get back to your high horse immediately. So I think that's really helpful.
Yes, that was.
Yeah.
Just one thing again, sorry.
No
But
problem.
like you say, about
Pranav, just 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. Actually, my whole family is waiting downstairs,
Okay.
and they're just waiting for lunch. We planned the lunch because for the birthday we can't go out. So everyone is waiting. They're not starting.
Oh,
Go,
I've
Preeti,
got
go.
okay.
I've got
Happy
two,
birthday
three.
again.
Happy birthday,
birthday.
Thank you
Preeti.
so much.
Bye.
Thank
Happy
you so much.
birthday.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for having me. Bye. See you.
Thanks for this session. It was so much required. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, go ahead, Pranav.
Yeah, so I do understand the aspect of giving yourself a day or something, when you're like, okay, fine, today I need a day to myself and to do whatever I want so that I can take a step back and relax and enjoy it. But what ends up happening is it creates a vicious circle wherein even if I'm taking out just that day or just a couple of hours, all I'm thinking during that time is, oh shit, why am I not doing anything? It's like, damn it. And it just sort of sends you spiraling down, and until you're like, okay, stop. I'm doing this to myself again. Let's take a step back. So yeah, like even taking a break sometimes becomes the trigger for you feeling even more anxious.
Okay, so I think this is very embedded in our how our society works or society thinks. We believe that if we are not working constantly, we are not doing well, and that is something that we need to, which is not going to change very soon, because that's something we've been, that is inculcated in us. So, really talking to yourself or talking yourself down. If you've decided that you're going to take a break, and you before you take a break, you kind of weigh your options. You see if that's, if it's really going to affect your work, or if it's okay to take that break for yourself. And if you really think that it's going to add to your problems and add to your anxieties, because it is actually a problem and it'll actually affect your work in any way, then it's probably not a great idea to just abandon all of that and go. But if you've decided that it's okay, it's not a big deal, I can take an hour off, I can take 2 hours off, I can even take a day off, then once you've taken that decision, it's very important to talk yourself down, because those thoughts are going to keep coming back to you. Like it's like this gnawing feeling that you're not doing anything. Oh my gosh, you're not doing anything. You're such a failure. You're not. This is not right. This is not what you're supposed to do. When that thought comes back, you need to talk yourself down. No, I have taken this decision. I'm going to stick to my decision, and I'm going to deal with, I've already decided, I've weighed the pros and cons of taking this break today, and I know what I'm doing, so that's okay. So those thoughts, that anxiety will keep coming, and that time maybe if you can, apply these techniques that I've probably talked to you about, deep breathing or just distracting yourself, that probably might work for you. But again, it's all dependent on how much work you really have or don't have. But once you've taken the decision, I think it's just a matter of telling yourself that you're going to control these, and you're not going to let them kind of overwhelm you.
Mhm. Thank you so much for this. It's
No
really
problem.
given me food for thought.
Yes, something to ponder over.
Okay, I'm done.
All
Okay.
right.
Any of you other girls? Pranav was the only guy who joined us. Thank you so much. But any, so come on, gals. Any questions? Okay, if you don't have, so it's fine. Okay. Okay, Shruti, I guess that's about it.
All right.
Okay, I just heard someone's voice.
Yeah, I think someone had.
Hey, hi, Shruti.
Hi.
Hi, Shruti.
Hi.
So,
Wait, who's speaking?
I think the question I have.
Radhika.
Radhika. Hi, Radhika. Tell me.
So the question I have is a bit specific to my, to a personal thing that happened right before the lockdown was put into place.
Okay.
So I think what I'll do is I'll share the question with Shruti. Perhaps we can get in touch over email.
Definitely.
If that's possible.
Yep. No problem. We can do that. If you're more comfortable with a call or online thing, you can do that as well. No problem. Whatever you would be comfortable with.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
problem.
I think I'll give your email ID to one who's attended the session, and then
Cool,
maybe you
that's
can like share this presentation with us so that I
Yeah.
can like people. And I think this entire call is being recorded. So just
Yeah, it is. It is.
Rajiv uncle, if like if he
Yeah.
knows this,
I'll
and
do that.
I mean, since you were talking a lot, I'm sure like you couldn't see us, but I'm sure if you were in a room with all of us, we would have just been like looking at you and just like.
I'm so glad that we're not in a room together. I have very bad stage fright. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure like I'm speaking on behalf of everyone, which I shouldn't. But what this entire session has just sort of given me like more perspective. I mean, the conversation of mental illness, mental health has all come out probably like maybe it's just been like 2 years. Like I think back in 2018, the entire conversation sort of got romanticized in certain ways, sort of being depicted in like movies and TVs. So that entire narrative has also taken a different routes. So you're just like, okay, what is going on? So and what we actually like, what I think what you try to do through this session is give us perspective. Like we're all colleagues, okay, we are all having work going on, like how to manage that better. I think all of us have received some sort of insight, and I'm so glad for all of you to fill the Google form so that it actually helps Shruti to
very much
presentation in and sort of it's been like a curated sort of presentation, and I'm sure like Shruti, and she kept asking me a lot of questions, so it just I'm so glad that you took that time out to really understand the people you were addressing. So thanks a lot, Shruti.
Thank you guys for being so cooperative. Actually, I mean, like Shruti said, those questions really, when you're talking about mental health, you really need to be specific about who you're talking to. I mean, what their issues and stuff. So thank you so much for cooperating, filling those out. And thank you for being here, attending this session. And it's the first time I'm doing something like this, so I really hope it's been of use and help to you guys. But thank you so much for
Definitely has been really
Thank you so
helpful.
much for
Thank
this.
you.
Yes, to many.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shruti. See you.
See you.
Bye.
God
Take
bless
care,
you all.
Shruti.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
All of
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you.